Hello friends, welcome to Easy Learn. In this video of Standard 9th Science and Technology, we are going to see the question and answers of Chapter 7 Energy Flow in an Ecosystem. The link to Chapter 6 is shared in the description box. If you like the video, do subscribe and press the bell icon to get the notifications for the next videos. So let's begin. Complete the following table. Carefully study the carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen cycles. So here is a table of bio-geo-chemical cycles. You have the biotic processes and abiotic processes. For carbon cycle, the biotic process is release of oxygen and carbon dioxide through photosynthesis and respiration respectively. Abiotic process, release of carbon dioxide in atmosphere by burning of fossil fuels, wood, etc. Oxygen cycle, biotic process, release of oxygen through photosynthesis and its consumption in respiration, etc. Abiotic process, photodissociation of water vapor in the atmosphere as a result of which oxygen is released. Nitrogen cycle, biotic process, nitrogen fixation, nitrification, ammonification, etc. Abiotic process, nitrogen fixation in atmosphere and denitrification. Question 2. Correct and rewrite the following statements and justify your corrections. A. Carnivores occupy the second trophic level in the food chain. Answer. Carnivores occupy the third trophic level in the food chain because the second level is occupied by herbivores. Herbivores are the organisms who feed on plants. Carnivores occupy the next level after herbivores. B. Plants in an ecosystem are called primary consumers. Answer. Plants in an ecosystem are called primary producers. Plants are autotrophs who can produce their own food, and other organisms are dependent on them to meet their nutritional requirements. C. The flow of nutrients in an ecosystem is considered to be a one-way transport. Answer. First, the sun is the most important source of energy in any ecosystem. Green plants of the ecosystem store some of the solar energy in the form of food. Before reaching the decomposers, this energy is passed on from one trophic level to the next. Decomposers dissipate some amount of energy in the form of heat. However, no part of the energy ever returns to the sun. Hence, such passage of energy is referred to as one-way transport. Question 3. Give reasons. A. Energy flow through an ecosystem is one way. First, the sun is the most important source of energy in any ecosystem. Second, green plants of the ecosystem store some of the solar energy in the form of food. Before reaching the decomposers, this energy is passed on from one trophic level to the next. Decomposers dissipate some amount of energy in the form of heat. However, no part of the energy ever returns to the sun. Hence, such passage of energy is referred to as one-way transport. B. Equilibrium is necessary in the various biogeochemical cycles. The cyclic flow of nutrients within an ecosystem is called the biogeochemical cycle. Nutrients necessary for the growth of organisms are continuously transferred from abiotic to biotic factors and biotic to abiotic factors within an ecosystem. This cycle operates continuously through the medium of biosphere formed by the lithosphere, atmosphere, and hydrosphere. The recycling of biological, geological, and chemical sources of nutrients in this process is a complex process and depends upon the level of energy transfer in the ecosystem. C. Flow of nutrients through an ecosystem is cyclic. All organisms need nutrients. The nutrients like carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, iron, etc. are circulated and recycled from biosphere to living organisms and vice versa. These are then passed to the consumers. Eventually, after death, all type of consumers are decomposed by decomposers like bacteria and fungi, and carbon dioxide is released again into the atmosphere and is used again by living organisms. Thus, flow of nutrients through an ecosystem is cycle. Question 4a, carbon cycle. Carbon enters life forms through the processes of photosynthesis. During photosynthesis, carbon dioxide and water combine to produce glucose and oxygen. This changes the atmospheric carbon into glucose molecules. Glucose, which is a source of food, is utilized by organisms to produce energy during respiration. During this process, glucose is broken down in the presence or absence of oxygen to produce carbon dioxide. Another process that releases carbon dioxide is combustion or burning. Many substances release carbon dioxide on burning. Vehicular emissions, industrial fumes, and the gases released during the process of cooking are some instances of release of carbon dioxide through combustion. Thus, carbon is cycled repeatedly through different forms by the various physical and biological activities. B. Nitrogen cycle. The circulation and recycling of nitrogen gas into the form of different compounds through various biotic and abiotic processes in nature is called the nitrogen cycle. All organisms participate in the nitrogen cycle. It is an important component of proteins and nucleic acids. As compared to other elements, it is inactive and does not easily combine with other elements. Most organisms cannot use the free form of nitrogen. Important processes of the nitrogen cycle. First, nitrogen fixation. It is the conversion of nitrogen into nitrates and nitrites through atmospheric, industrial, and biological processes. Second, ammonification. Release of ammonia through decomposition of dead bodies and excretory waste of organisms. Third, nitrification. It is the conversion of ammonia into a nitrate and then nitrate. Fourth, denitrification. Conversion of nitrogen compounds into gaseous. Fourth, C. Oxygen cycle. Circulation and recycling of oxygen within the biosphere is called the oxygen cycle. This cycle too includes both the biotic and the abiotic components. Oxygen is continuously produced as well as used up in the atmosphere. Oxygen is highly reactive and it readily reacts with the other elements and compounds. Oxygen is found in various forms like molecular oxygen O2, water H2O, and carbon dioxide CO2, inorganic compounds, etc. The oxygen cycle of the biosphere is extremely complex. Sixth, oxygen is released in the process of photosynthesis, whereas it is used up in the processes like respiration, combustion, decomposition, corrosion, rusting, etc. Question 5. What would you do to help maintain the equilibrium in the various biogeochemical cycles? Explain in brief. Answer. Biogeochemical cycles are the basis of life and play an important role in the maintenance of life on Earth. Any kind of disturbance to the cycles can result in the destruction of life. We have seen from all the biological cycles that plants play a crucial role in these cycles. Plants are required for the existence of life on Earth, and any kind of harm to them can directly affect the life on Earth. Deforestation due to industrialization and increased population has resulted in the loss of forest cover on Earth. In order to maintain the equilibrium in biological cycles, following steps should be undertaken. First, reduce deforestation, reduce the carbon imprint, minimize the use of fossil fuels and encourage the use of renewable sources of energy, conserve water, conserve biodiversity as both plants and animals are a part of this biological cycle. Question 6. Explain in detail the interrelationship between the food chain and the food web. Answer. Interactions go on continuously between the producers, consumers, and saprophytes. There is a definite sequence in these interactions which is called the food chain. Each chain consists of 4, 5, or more links. An ecosystem consists of many food chains that are interconnected at various levels. Thus, a food web is formed. An organism may be the prey for many other organisms. For example, an insect feeds upon leaves of various plants, but the same insect is the prey for different animals like frog, wall lizard, birds, etc. Question 7. State the different types of biogeochemical cycles and explain the importance of those cycles. Answer. To maintain the concentrations of different naturally occurring substances in the environment, there are mechanisms that constantly recycle these substances. These recycling mechanisms are called biogeochemical cycles. So, biogeochemical cycles are the cyclic flow of nutrients between non living environment and living organisms. Types of biogeochemical cycles. There are two major types of biogeochemical cycles. One, gaseous cycle. These are the biogeochemical cycles in which the reservoir pool is the atmosphere or hydrosphere. For example, carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, etc. Second, sedimentary cycles. These are the biochemical cycles in which the reservoir pool is generally lithosphere. For example, phosphorus cycle, sulfur cycle, etc. First, nitrogen cycle. The concentration of nitrogen in the atmosphere is about 78%. Nitrogen is essential for all life forms. It is the structural component of many important biomolecules such as DNA, RNA, and vitamins. The nitrogen cycle involves conversion of nitrogen from its elemental form in the atmosphere into simpler molecules in the soil and water. These further get converted into more complex molecules in living beings. Finally, the complex molecules are reduced and released back into the atmosphere as simple nitrogen molecules. Important processes of nitrogen cycle. First, nitrogen fixation. Conversion of nitrogen into nitrites and nitrates through atmospheric, industrial, and biological processes. Ammonification. Release of ammonia through decomposition of dead bodies and excretory waste of organisms. Nitrification. Conversion of ammonia into a nitrite and then nitrate. Denitrification. Conversion of nitrogen compounds into gaseous nitrogen. Oxygen cycle. Oxygen is an important component of life. We cannot survive without oxygen. It comprises about 21% of atmospheric air. It is present in dissolved form in water bodies and helps in survival of aquatic life. In the combined form, it is found both in earth crust and in the air. In the air, it occurs as carbon dioxide. In the crust, it is present as oxides of most metals and silicon, and also as carbonate, sulfate, nitrate, and other minerals. Oxygen is also a part of several essential biomolecules such as carbohydrates, proteins, nucleic acids, and fats. There are processes that utilize atmospheric nitrogen. At the same time, the balance of oxygen in the atmosphere is also maintained. Oxygen is utilized during respiration, combustion, and formation of oxides of nitrogen. Oxygen is returned to the atmosphere in only one major way, and that is photosynthesis. Carbon cycle. All organic substances are made up of carbon. fats, vitamins, nucleic acids, carbohydrates, and proteins contain carbon as a structural component. Carbonate salts form endoskeletons and exoskeletons of many animals. Carbon enters the life form through the processes of photosynthesis. During photosynthesis, carbon dioxide and water combine to produce glucose and oxygen. This changes the atmospheric carbon into glucose molecules. Glucose, which is a source of food, is utilized by organisms to produce energy during respiration. During this process, glucose is broken down in the presence or absence of oxygen to produce carbon dioxide. Another process that releases carbon dioxide is combustion or burning. Many substances release carbon dioxide on burning. Vehicular emissions, industrial fumes, and the gases released during the process of cooking are some instances of release of carbon dioxide through combustion. Thus, carbon is cycled repeatedly through different forms by the various physical and biological activities. Explain the following with suitable examples. A. What type of changes occur in the amount of energy during its transfer from plants to apex consumers? Answer. Green plants of the ecosystem store some amount of solar energy in the form of food. Before reaching the decomposers, this energy is passed on from one trophic level to the next. Decomposers dissipate some amount of energy in the form of heat. However, no part of the energy ever returns to the sun. Hence, such a passage of energy is referred to as one-way transport. B. What are the differences between the flow of matter and of energy in an ecosystem? Why? Answer. The major difference between the flow of matter and of energy is that the flow of matter occurs in a cyclic manner. That is, it is recycled. However, the flow of energy in an ecosystem is unidirectional, which means it is not recycled. The flow of matter follows the following path. Decomposers release nutrients when they break down dead organisms. The nutrients are taken up by the plants through their roots. The nutrients pass to the primary consumers when they eat the plants. The nutrients pass to higher level consumers when they eat the lower level consumers. When living things die, the cycle repeats. In case of flow of energy, the energy flows through an ecosystem in one direction, from photosynthetic organisms to herbivores, to omnivores and carnivores and decomposers. Less and less energy becomes available to support life. This loss of usable energy occurs because each energy transfer results in dissipation of some energy into the environment as. Thank you.